Hey 1A, how's it going? I know you're all working on your profile rough drafts right now. The question I always hear the most about, hands down, is going to be structure. Even though we've read profiles for most of our reading lives, starting in elementary school, when we move to structure them ourselves, sometimes they seem a little bit more difficult because it's something new. The act of reading it is not the same as the act of writing it. But hopefully, this will give you some better idea of how to work it. Now, you know me, I'm all about structure. I'm all about giving people templates and skeletons and things like that they can work off of and change. So, towards that end here, I've got a really great profile thesis statement skeleton for you. And it goes a little like this. Before I investigated blank, I had thought blank about it. However, I soon learned blank. Now, feel free to put this in after you've done the observation um, and after you've done the interview. I mean, this first part, up to the semicolon, you can do right now because it's all about your preconceptions about the topic, what you think it's going to be about, what you think you know about it, etc. Before I investigated uh, being a registered nurse, I had thought it was a relatively simple process. Okay? It's a little simplistic, but it's a placeholder. We can mess with that wording a little bit later. However, I soon learned that, right here goes, all that, those big ideas that you learned through the interview and through um, uh, the observation of place or activity. Take a minute to screenshot that, scribble it down. Really helpful. Now, when it comes to actually structuring your profile essay, remember I've talked about it before as like a narrative of discovery. You're learning things, you kind of have an exciting moment, maybe at one point, an epiphany or something. Might be a little bit shallower, that's fine too. But at the end, you've got a takeaway, you've got some kind of large learning moment about your subject matter. To look at those chunks in a different way, in your introduction, you've got your preconceptions. You can list what you think you already know about the subject of your profile, whether it's being a nurse or being on a professional esports gaming team or being a chemist, whatever your subject is. Also, make a prediction. Explain what you think you're going to learn while investigating your subject. Now, here comes description. Notice these are the body paragraphs. However many body paragraphs you have. In general, I think you get roughly 2 body paragraphs, more or less, per page in MLA format. So you're looking at maybe 7, 8 paragraphs, something like that. The place associated with your subject, you can have that description in there, that observation of place or space, and also your interviewee, right? Your interviewee's got something going on with how they look and how they act, right? Remember that person who ran the funeral home in The Last Stop who looked like death on 2 legs? You should be so lucky to get somebody to describe like that. But whatever it is, putting in that description once again helps transport people into your writing. It's immersive. Now, what's also going into these body paragraphs are going to be interview questions and answers. Now, remember that for a lot of people, observing the space can happen before you move it into the interview questions and answers. Because if there's an activity taking place in that space, a veterinarian exam, a teacher teaching a class, doing that observation first will give you more questions to ask. Now, keep in mind, not all of them are going to end up in the essay. That's natural. Don't worry about that. Only the best ones. And some of those answers are going to be paraphrased. And we've talked about paraphrasing before. You're just trying to get the main idea in there. It could be summarized. That means your own words but condensed. Or maybe verbatim. I know I used the fancy Latin word there. Direct quotation. There's something really amazing about the phrasing that they use or the way they worded something. Yeah, use those exact words. That'd be really that's the perfect choice for that. Also keep in mind 99 times out of 100 you do not need to put your question in there. Just put their response into there. Um, Instead of starting off like, so then I asked my interviewee how he got interested in this line of work. I got interested in this line of work when I was 13 and I got my first skateboard and I broke both my elbows. Or whatever. Cut out that question and just say, my interviewee describes how he first got interested in the sport. I got my first skateboard at 13. And even though I broke both my elbows that very first week, I knew I was in love. Most of the time, your question is just there to provide the answer. Keep those questions out. It'll make it more exciting, more fun. A tour description of that interview space can be put in there. Maybe, you're moving room to room or section to section in that particular space. That can be a good way to kind of show progress through the profile as well. I've had people like going through like an automotive repair shop, going along the back wall, looking at the tools, looking at, the hydraulic jacks, then looking at the front office, etc. And then conclusion, you're going to evaluate your preconceptions. In other words, how accurate were they? Did you just nail it? Are you Professor X? But also explain how your perspective on this subject has changed. In other words, what did you learn? How is it different? And this part, how your perspective on your subject changed, can fill in that second half of the thesis statement skeleton that I gave you at the beginning of this video. Easy peasy. Now, how do these all flow together? In little layers within each body paragraph. Now, if you want to kind of see how this works in action, do this. What I sometimes will have my class do is take out one of the profiles I've given them as an example, whether it's a student example or it's a professional example, and then download it as a Word document or as a PDF. Word documents I think work better for highlighting. Pick one color of highlighter for preconceptions. Pick another color highlighter for description, just that vivid stuff, the detailing, the naming, the comparing. Interview answers can be in red or pink or whatever colors. It doesn't matter what color. But anyway, when you do that, what you're going to see is there are lots of tiny little layers in each one. It's very, very rare that it's just going to be like, blam, here comes the interview. Blam, here comes the description of the interviewee. Blam, here comes the observation of space in 3 big fat paragraphs that are each page long. It's got to have a little bit more layer on that. I mean, the beginning, you're just trying to structure it from beginning to end. So put in the most important stuff and then think about how you can turn the dial up on description, turn the dial up on, which interview answers you want to use, including those ones that have excellent phrasing. Well, guys, I hope this has helped. As usual, please feel free to text me, to email me. Keep in mind, it's going to be due not this week, but next week. So you've got a little bit more time on that rough draft. Thanks for watching, and I'll talk to you soon.